Well, I think it is finally time to look at what Chelsea have done this season, which again has been quite remarkable. Yes, there's been some highs. There have been some very, very lows in this entire season with our manager, with our players, but really what we've been seeing with this squad as of lately has shown what I believe Pochettino has been trying to implement this entire time into the season, which I know a lot of the fans were not behind him, but now I think most are. If you're not, I don't understand why you wouldn't be, but we are finally going in the right direction. We've won our last four games. We drew to Aston Villa after getting battered by Arsenal, and since that match, we've been playing out of our minds. Let's be real here. To go out and have pretty much the most points minus Arsenal, City, and Liverpool since Christmas, this by itself should show you how well this team actually is. That the fact that our early season was so terrible, yet that we were somehow able to almost work our way up into Champions League spot. We still can get Europa. We're not obviously in Champions League, but the fact that we can get Europa League yet, with how the season has going, with all the injuries, with everything that's happened, some of the big losses we've had, and some of the points that we've dropped to teams that are getting relegated, we are still in contention right now to finish fifth. Yes, there has to be a little bit that has to happen. Tottenham obviously have to lose. We have to beat Bournemouth. But if those two things do happen, which again, I wouldn't be surprised if Tottenham lost to Sheffield United, that is a game that Spurs really could bottle. They barely beat them last time they played. I believe they scored in the 95th minute and the 100th minute to actually win that game. And therefore, again, this could be one last hurrah for Sheffield United before they go down and get relegated. And Tottenham really have been just spinning their wheels these last couple months. And therefore, again, there is high potential that we could take fifth. And even if that doesn't happen, City are more likely than not going to beat United. Now, I'm not going to say that's 100% guaranteed because anytime you're in a cup final, obviously anything can happen. But the fact is, if that Man City win the FA Cup over Manchester United, then that sixth position in the table goes to Europa League as well. So really, Chelsea are looking fairly good right now to possibly play in Europa next season. Now, granted, if we don't make Europa, then we have the Conference League. And I'm not sure how I feel about that one as of right now. I feel like that is going to be one of those that we should probably win, which put more pressure on these players, which we do not want to have right now. And Europa, I think, is going to be able to pull more players this summer, which again, we're going to have to pick and choose different players and ship some people out because there are areas that we need to focus on and keep working and keep rebuilding. And the fact is that we have been picking up a lot of injuries, so we may need to assess some of these players as well that have been here for a while, have been injured throughout this entire season, and look at possibly their future at this club. But that all being said, I do believe Pochettino is the right man. I've been saying this for a while. You can go back and look at how many times I've mentioned. I said he was possibly on the fence at some points, but really, you could definitely tell how the players were backing this manager. If the players ever back a manager, there's typically a good connection between what's going on in the locker room. It's way different if players are coming out saying certain things, managers coming out and saying certain things, putting players under the bus. But that is not the case that we've been seeing at this club, and which is a great sign for the future for Chelsea because with all these young players that we have brought in, if some of these players were all of a sudden just saying all this negativity towards the club, towards the manager, towards the owners, it could really break up the locker room. Now, I'm not going to say that still cannot happen in the next couple of years because this is really the only second year under Todd Bowley and the new ownership and the first year with Pochettino. So still a lot can happen in the next couple of seasons. But one thing for certain is that this team, this club is starting to look like the old selves. They are building and getting better and better because last year we're all going to forget about last year, where we finished, how the entire season went, the managers that came in, the results that we had, and even some of the players that played for us last year. Thing is, this year, it was a complete different squad, new manager. Yes, there were certain players still that were here, but still, we had a different identity, and that identity is finally now showing. Now, you could argue maybe because of some injuries that have come in for the most part, that has changed the corresponding ways of Chelsea been playing, Enzo Fernandez being one of them, but I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. We probably will talk about him in another video about his relationship with this club, how he's been playing, but he's been hurt pretty much all season long. So think about having a hernia injury and having to play. we were literally playing with a man down pretty much half of this season, which does make sense why we were playing so poorly and why probably him and Cancedo haven't been able to gel well. I do feel that once he's fully fit, we can probably work this out in the midfield with those two players. And again, get the best out of these two guys and show why we splash so much cash for these guys. Because Cancedo, in my humble opinion, has already shown his worth already this season, and we have him for a long period of time. If he can continue doing what he's been doing these last couple months, by no way is he going to be a flop. He will go down as a great Chelsea player, and who knows, he could go even further, become a legend at this club. That is still to be figured out and found out, depending how we end each season. But Cancedo, again, already doing well. Some of the other players were brought in. Cole Palmer, do we really have to say anything how well he's been doing? He's been on fire. Nicholas Jackson, I still think he's been a fairly good signing for his first year in the Premier League. You could disagree with me on that one. But the fact is that we've brought in players, Malagusto being another guy, and these players have been coming in. People are giving the whole ownership a hard time with these players, but yet we're now seeing that these players being brought in are actually flourishing. They are playing very well, and we have them for a long, long time on a fairly minimum contract. When you look at month to month or week to week, what we have to pay for them, comparing to other players like say Raheem Sterling or even other squads like Mason Mount at Manchester United, how much they are making per week. These players are on a very low amount of money right now. And again, if we keep playing well, we'll get the best of these players. And granted, we'll have to re-sign them or we may have to sell them at some point. But we're more likely than not going to get our money back from a lot of these players. Now, we may still bust on one or two of these guys, but that is how you do business. You have to take a gamble on some of these players, but I think what we've been doing, what the manager with Pochettino has been able to do with these players really shows that this club has potential to be a threat next year. And I'm going to say this now, that which again might not age well, might age like milk. I do believe Chelsea can compete for the Premier League title next season. I do think we can do that. Yes, I know Arsenal and City are at just a different caliber right now, but with this preseason, with some new signings coming in, getting rid of some players, having all the momentum from the end of this season, with the manager now a full season going into his second season, really Chelsea have the capabilities of going out and again pushing for the title. Like I said earlier, they are on the same amount of points or close to it with City, with Arsenal, with Liverpool since Christmas. The fact that that's almost half the season is already showing you that we can compete with these players and these teams. If you look back at our results, yes, we lost to Liverpool. We got blown out in our second game, but we drew them in the first time. We drew to Arsenal, and yes, we did get blown out again. I understand with that one. But City, we drew with them both times, and we were fairly unfortunate in the FA Cup semifinal with them. So we can show our worth against these big clubs. It's these smaller clubs that we still have to worry about, because if you look back into the season and you look at some of the teams that we drop points to, Nottingham Forest in the beginning of the season, West Ham, Sheffield United, Burnley. These are big points that had we not dropped those, we would be looking at Champions League spot right now. From where we were last season to now, we would be in the Champions League spot fighting with Aston Villa. But the fact is, that is the results. That's what we have to deal with. And now we're looking Europa League, which again, I am totally fine with how last season went. The fact that we're even doing this well really gives this whole fan base, I believe, a new energy and really to be excited for next season. And I do believe, like I said, we will be competing for the title next season. So I do want to know, what do you guys think about Chelsea season? I probably will break down Pochettino, what he's done throughout this entire season. I do, though, want to know what you guys think on this season, where you think we'll end next season, and what do you think we'll do this upcoming transfer window. I do think it's going to be a big shakeup, not just for our club, but for the entire Premier League. I think a lot of players will be moving around through different clubs from different leagues, and again, it's going to be another fun season coming up next year. So if you did enjoy this content, I greatly appreciate it. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you have not. That means a lot to me. And so that is all, and I will see you in our next video.